Today's program contains mature subject matter you may not want your children to watch.
Cossey's life has always been surrounded by mystery and controversy and no end of difficulties. If the name Caroline Cossey is not familiar to you, that's probably because she's known throughout the world as Tula. This stunning beauty was a chorus girl in Paris, has appeared nude in Playboy magazine, but nobody knew the real truth about Tula. Nobody knew that she had been born a he and had had a sex change operation. And nobody knew that Tula was really a man until the British press blew the whistle on her and her modeling career came to an end. But Tula was determined to have a normal life as a woman. She got married, but it didn't last. And now she plans to marry for the second time and has announced her engagement to a young Canadian engineering student. She's also planning to have a baby. And I'd like you to welcome Caroline Cossey and her fiancé, David Finch. You know, you have had the most amazing life. It really has. You're what, 37 now?
Yes.
37.
Yeah.
And it's been full of all kinds of exciting experiences. Now you're embarking on this new marriage with David.
Yeah.
We refer to you as a young engineering student. You're 27, right?
Yes.
So this is the older woman in your life.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, did you know about the fact that Caroline had been a man?
No, well...
When you first met her? Did she look familiar to you? Because she was a world-famous model.
Yeah, I remember reading the article about the James Bond film incident, and I'd forgotten about it, and that was about 10 years ago. So...
It's amazing how the two of you met.
Yeah, quite by chance.
It was. Tell us how you met.
Well, I was traveling through Europe. I was backpacking through Europe for 5 months. And I got back to England, and I was traveling through London, and I got off my bus at the wrong time, about a mile down the road further than I should have. And when I got off the bus, I came across a shopping mall, and since I didn't know how long I was going to be on the road, I decided to stop in for lunch. And she was sitting at this restaurant. She was sitting at the wrong restaurant. She was meeting a friend for lunch.
You were on the wrong bus and you were at the wrong restaurant?
That's right.
So you were both at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
Then, really?
That's right, yeah.
And you noticed her right away?
Yes, yeah.
And did you just walk over and talk to her?
Yeah, this restaurant looked like at the cashier they only had pastries on display, so I wanted to make sure I had a proper meal on my stomach, and so I went up to her and asked her, "Can I get a proper meal here?" And she said sure, and showed me the menu, and we started talking. And then I asked her if we could sit down, and if I could sit down and join her for lunch. And she said, "Yeah, you can sit down for 5 minutes," because she said I have a friend coming, and so I said.
But you didn't recognize her right away, did you?
No.
Okay, now did you suspect, what did you think when I mean, he's a handsome young man, but I'm sure that lots of handsome young men approach you.
Yes.
What was your reaction when he approached you?
Well, he was Canadian. I mean, if he would have been English, I would have just bugger off or something. He was Canadian, and he had a very endearing accent, and I said, sure, but you can only stay 5 minutes because I'm meeting someone for lunch. But as it turned out, Jakob sort of turned up, and we all got talking, and Jakob's son was doing engineering, and David's in engineering, and then, as it happens, David's dad is born 4 miles from where I was born in East Anglia, Norfolk,
really?
Norwich, yes. So that sort of got us off for a good start, and we had a lot to talk about.
Were the sparks flying right from the beginning?
Well, how can you look at me and not? Yes.
Really? Did you feel something right from the beginning, David?
Yes. When our eyes first met and we smiled at each other, it was, I don't know, it seemed like there's a lot of subliminal information getting exchanged there.
Love at first sight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I was still a little cautious because I thought, you know, he was asking me an awful lot of questions, but not the ones that I'm used to. you know, when I meet sort of English people, they, oh, good luck with your campaign, and, you know, I think you're doing great things for transsexuals and everything. And I thought, well, does he know or what? Because he didn't sort of approach the subject. And I said, you know, when we exchanged numbers, and then he called me, I just sort of felt he needs to know if he doesn't. And I didn't feel he did. So I said, you need to buy my book. And he said, well, what is this book all about? And I said, well, I can't really say. It's a bit difficult to talk about, but go and buy it. And I told him the title, my story, and he went out, he spent the weekend looking for it and found it and read it. And
then you knew.
And then I knew.
And it didn't and then it obviously didn't bother you.
Oh, it did.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, no, my reaction wasn't a good one at all.
What did you think?
Oh, you know, my reaction was, my God, that was a man. You know, and I couldn't believe it. But you know, she told me her parting statement was, "Go read my book, and you might not want to call me back." So.
Did you have second thoughts at all, David, about calling her?
No, that I didn't, because I didn't think anything was gonna. I didn't think we were gonna start a relationship. So I wanted to go back and meet her, and not talk solely about transsexualism, but just to carry on where we left off.
So you were intrigued to some degree. There was something intriguing in all of this.
Mm-hmm. But we had such a nice time at lunch. I just wanted to continue that. So I called her back. I called her back, and when I headed back to London, looked her up, and we got together.
And here you are.
That's it.
Planning the wedding.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you. I love talking about weddings. Are you going to do the whole, this is your second marriage, but it's David's first, right?
yes.
Are you going to do the whole long gown and the you know, the whole bridal thing with the bridesmaids and the ushers?
I had it once, and I didn't really want to. I wanted to sort of have a quiet day in Vegas, because I know what the tabloids are all about. But, you know, for David, it's his first, and I just feel I can't be selfish. So, you know, I want that day to be memorable, and I want David to sort of remember it in a nice way. So he sort of said, you know, we'll do it here where it's legal, and hopefully we're trying to...
So you get married in Canada?
Yes.
And you want the big formal wedding?
Not a big wedding, but a formal one.
Okay.
A day to remember.
Yeah.
As opposed to Vegas in a little chapel.
Your family, how do they feel about the fact that you're with Caroline?
Oh, they're great.
They're
really good. That was a bit of a funny situation there, because Caroline, when I came back from my trip, my European trip, she didn't want me to tell my family about her, because she was coming over to meet my family, and she wanted them to meet her as a person, without any preconceived ideas. So I agreed to that, but you know, I had pictures of Caroline. One day my mom went out and see some friends, and she took these pictures along, and a friend recognized Caroline, and she didn't want to drop the bomb. She didn't. She figured my mom didn't know. So my mom, she said, "Oh, I saw her on TV." So my mom came back and said, "Was Caroline on TV?" And you know, I just knew the cat was coming out of the bag, and I said, "Yeah, we better sit down and have a talk." And
have a heart-to-heart. Well, Mom,
yeah,
here's the news.
That's
you know?
right. Yeah. So, but it was very emotional, but it went really well.
Are both your parents? I'm referring to your mother and your father?
Yeah, well,
and you have a brother as well.
That's right. Yeah. And
did everybody respond well to this? Did anyone? Was there no one in your family who had any qualms or concerns about it?
No.
Because I think you're very fortunate. I mean, to be very honest with you, I don't think everyone is as open-minded about that kind of thing, about the fact that you would marry someone who had had a sex change operation.
No,
and you obviously have very open parents.
I'm really lucky, because if my parents hadn't accepted Caroline, then she wouldn't have, when I asked her to marry me, she wouldn't have said yes, because she didn't want to go through all that again, with the first marriage and the problems with the in-laws that she had. So she didn't want to be subjected to that again. She didn't want to subject me to that if that was the case. So, I've really got my family to thank.
When's your wedding planned for?
Summer.
The summertime.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell me what it is you love about Caroline.
Oh, it's hard to really sum up. Yeah. It's
What qualities
just-
about her do you think?
Well, she's just really about the kindest person I've ever met. She's been through so much, and instead of becoming bitter about it, it's made her stronger. And yet she's still vulnerable, and she's just really more than my ideal woman. And
this is a very sweet, insightful young man you have here. What is it about him? What are the qualities? Because you know what, I'm sitting here. I've never met you before, and I've read about you, and I've read your book, and I've read articles about you. But there's one thing I never actually felt about you until I actually sat opposite you, and that's a kind of a vulnerability about you.
Yeah.
I actually can sense that you've been through a tremendous amount of pain, although you're a real fighter. I can tell that. But you have. A lot of what you've gone through has been tremendous emotional pain.
Yeah.
And he can feel that from you, and I'm wondering what it is about him. Because he's younger, he's a student, he's not established. Certainly you're not marrying him for his money, his status.
that's for sure.
Because you've known some I mean, you've known Arab sheiks, wealthy businessmen. This is a different kind of man for you, isn't it?
He's got a pure, I don't know about innocent quality, because he looks terribly innocent, but he changes into someone else in the bedroom, that's for sure. But he's just so honest, and you know, he was very open about the subject, and he was willing to read and learn, and he really accepted me on face value, and I think that's great. And his family has been wonderful. So
now you want to have a baby, okay? And that is physically impossible, anatomically impossible for
at
you.
The moment. I mean, they are working on transplanting ovaries and womb, but I think my body's sort of had enough torture at the moment. So I don't
You've had a lot of surgery, and I'm sure you don't.
Well, not a lot. 3.
3 operations.
I had my 3-piece suite removed, and then I had my breasts, and then I had my throat done.
The Adam's
Sort of,
apple.
Yes, turned around. So.
Okay, so your sister, who you're very close to.
That's right.
Who lives in England.
She does at the moment.
Yeah.
Poor love, she's had a bad time with her other half as well, so at the moment she's back in England, yes.
So you're going to have her artificially inseminated with David's sperm.
Well, the tabloids sort of blown up that situation, but because I mentioned that, but at the moment we're just sort of concentrating on getting married, which is the summer, but maybe 18 months, 2 years down the line, my sister has said yes, like she has in all my relationships, you know, whatever I can do to make you happy. And when David spoke to Pam, she was absolutely delighted, so that's great. And
okay, well, we're going to phone Pam.
yeah?
Yeah, we are going to talk to her, say hi to her. When we return, we will meet Pam. We'll meet Pam, Caroline's sister, and your future sister-in-law. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Stand there. Choo-choo. 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 Choo-boogie. Woo-woo. Woo-woo. Choo-boogie. Dried and sugarless gum. We got taste wrapped up. Choo-choo.
Now, what does a mini Oreo have to be? Right, so let's show 'em. Okay, mini Oreos, take 5. Of course, you can take as many as you like.
New mini Oreo from Mr. Christie.
You know, I've never had a fajita before.
Introducing new beef fajitas at McDonald's. Seasoned beef, green peppers, onions, and tomatoes in a soft tortilla. With hot or mild sauce for only $1.29. A little taste of Mexico at McDonald's.
And you say we never go anywhere.
Don't just stand there. Choo-choo. 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 Choo-boogie. Woo-woo. Woo-woo. Choo-boogie. Dried and sugarless gum. We got taste wrapped up. Choo-choo.
Do you suffer from lower back pain? Improving muscle strength and flexibility can really help. I'm David Snively. Join me weekday mornings on Great Shape.
Great Shape, weekdays at 9 on CFCF 12.
I was talking to Caroline Cossey and David Finch. Caroline, who's also known as Tula, and her sister Pam is on the phone from England, and we're going to talk to you, Pam, in just a moment. Let's say hi to you first. How are you, Pam?
Hello there, I'm fine, thank you.
Your sister's getting married.
Yes. Hello, Caroline. Hello, David.
Hi, sweetheart. How are you doing?
Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Are you excited about this?
Yeah, I'm so very, very pleased.
Are you coming to Canada for the wedding?
I would like to.
Is she going to be your maid of honor?
I hope so, yeah.
I'm helping you plan the wedding here, Caroline. I figure every step of the way. Every time someone tells me they're getting married, I'm in there, trying to plan and help out. So let me ask you about, there's a couple of things I thought we should talk about. What do you think of your brother-in-law here, your future brother-in-law, David?
My future, I think he's adorable. He really is. He's just so, they're just so very well suited. He's terribly sweet, and he's making her very happy, and she deserves that.
She looks very happy, and she hasn't always been happy, and I'm going to talk about, what Caroline was like when she was a little boy. And all the changes that you've gone through with her as her sister, the emotional changes that you've gone through, because she's really depended upon you for a lot of emotional support. But the press has talked a lot about the fact that you're hoping to be the surrogate mother of Caroline and David's baby.
Yes.
And I just wanted to talk to you about that a little bit. How you came to that decision, the three of you, and why you thought that was a good idea.
Well, as I said earlier, Pam, with my husband, and before that, with Glauco. I mean, she's always said, whatever I can do to make you complete, she would. I mean, we're so close. Mm-hmm. We're more than sisters. We're, good friends. We've traveled the world. We've both been models. I would do the same for her if I could.
Yeah. It would just be like second nature to me, really, because I would feel it's the least I could do just to make her feel that much more complete.
Now, you said that Pam has been there, you referred to a couple of different people, Glauco and your...
Yes. I was engaged to Glauco, that was the Italian gentleman, and that didn't work out. He turned out to be a bit of a typical Italian stallion, so I sort of let him go. And then with my husband, it was only a 3-week marriage, in the Guinness Book of Records, I think. His mum and dad couldn't cope once we had discussed whether we should tell them before we got married, but they had a very difficult time.
Was he a young man that he was frightened to tell his family?
No, he wasn't frightened. We discussed openly whether we should or not, but they had such a bad time dealing with the fact that I was Christian.
Because they were a Jewish family.
That's right, and Orthodox. So I had to spend a year converting, and because his mother didn't want to meet me for 6 months because I was Christian. I mean, we just couldn't tell her I was transsexual. She would have keeled over.
So it's kind of the bad news is, it's kind of the bad news and the worst news in a sense,
exactly. So we just decided, wait till we'd been together some time, and then once we'd gone up the avenue of the surrogate aspect, then we'd explain why. At least she could see that we were both happy and all the rest of it, but it never got to that because we went on a honeymoon.
You actually got married by a rabbi?
That's right, yes. Had a wonderful synagogue wedding, and then had the Savoy as a reception, and then went to Acapulco.
He came from this very wealthy family. He was
yes.
And so, and you were very happy with him, but once his family found out...
Well, yes, that's right. We came back from our honeymoon on the same day that we stepped off the plane. It was front page in the same newspaper that had exposed my gender reassignment surgery at the peak of my career, and he was summoned home, and I never saw him again. I had to deal with his brother and lawyers, basically. So it was very difficult.
And that was it?
Yeah.
He just walked out on you?
Yeah, and that's what's totally... I mean, it took me 2 years, and David is the first man that I've actually been physical with since that. It was a very painful experience, but that's totally it's motivated me because of the situation of being dumped, and then before that, with being exposed by the press at the midst of my career. In England, transsexuals, we're helped medically, but we're stuck in legal limbo, and it really doesn't make sense.
Are you allowed to marry now in England?
No.
You're not? It's illegal?
A woman, I could marry you, Shirley.
But I'm sure we'd get along great, but I'm already married. That's the problem.
I couldn't consummate the marriage anyway.
So the problem is that you're allowed to marry a woman because you're seen as a man. You're viewed as like a man.
That's right. But it would be annulled because I couldn't consummate the marriage. I could consummate a marriage with a man, but it's not legal. I mean, I break the law every day. I use the woman's bathroom, you know, restroom.
But you are, I mean, you are anatomically a woman now, from head to toe.
Yes, and internally too.
Internally as well.
I was, but when I was born, I mean, when you're born, it's the visual aspect, isn't it? And I was a woman with a willy when I was born. But, you know, I had my hormones and chromosomal count, and then I had a surgeon who directed me to feel complete, and I needed surgery.
Let's just go back a little bit, because Pam, I want to ask you about Caroline. Now, your name was Barry, was it not?
Yes.
Yeah. you grimaced when I said that. You went like that.
Well,
why?
yes, because you know, I had a bad time. You know, I was bullied and beaten up, and I had to bribe most of the boys that I was at school with my dad's collection of coins and cards and things, just to keep them off me, because I think men, they know, you know, if they're at school and then there's someone who's different.
Now, here's a photograph of you as a young, what are you, about 14, 15 here?
Yeah, 16.
16, yeah.
Just
You're
myself.
you look like a young girl. You
well,
don't?
I was.
And I want to ask Pam, what, you know, is Pam older than you?
Younger.
Younger. What you saw? I mean, you went through this with your sister, Pam.
Yeah.
What was it like for Caroline when she was a boy, before the operation, when she was being bullied and pushed around and ridiculed all the time because she was so effeminate?
It was really awful for her, because I used to feel terribly sort of protective towards her, because I could see that she was having a bad time, and we used to walk to school together. And she said, you know, Pam, if you are magic, she said, would you magic the day, go quick with dinner, the lessons and everything that's hard, and don't let the headmaster pick on me or any of the bullies at school. And it used to sort of break my heart, because she was terribly soft, and she was just not belonging at all with her identity, and we used to sort of dress up and play with our dollies and everything, and I just always looked upon her as a sister, because I was far too immature to look upon her any other way.
But when you got older, did you think that you were homosexual ever?
Yes, I did actually, yes, because I was attracted to, obviously, men, and because at that point I still was a male as far as the genitalia, and I just assumed I was gay. But leaving home, I didn't want to be an embarrassment to my family. I mean, I was having blackouts and things, and my mum and dad took me to different doctors and specialists, and they just said, oh, he's growing up too fast, he'll grow out of it. But I didn't. I actually got worse.
What were the blackouts from?
Hormonal problems, like someone going through the menopause.
Really?
Yeah. And I left East Anglia to go to London just to sort of find myself, and I sort of mixed with gay people, but I was turned away from gay places because they said, I'm sorry, you know, we don't allow drag queens in here. And I thought, drag queen, you know? I wanted to put mascara on and look pretty, grow my hair, and I just assumed, you know, what was wrong with that? And then finally I met Polly, who I talk about in my book, and you know, fortunately, she opened the avenue of finding myself as a transsexual, because
so you didn't fit in the gay world or in the straight world?
Yeah.
You were in this sort of twilight world?
That's right.
All right, we're going to take a break, and Pam, can you stay on the line with us for a little bit longer?
Okay, then. I will.
Great. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Okay.
Introducing new Excel sugar-free gum. It freshens your breath longer. Accelerate your breath. New Excel with EMC has a long-lasting cooling sensation that keeps your breath fresh longer. Accelerate your breath. Now freshen your breath longer with new Excel sugar-free gum. Accelerate your breath.
Sing it for me, girls. No, on your man. All right, here I come now. And you know when you hear me a moaning, no. Well, and you know that's I'm your man.
The only thing as good as your crispy crunch is someone else's.
For kids in trouble.
You don't have to live like that.
I don't have any choice.
He's the only hope.
I have to pay him back.
I tried to quit, but I can't. I trusted you.
Neon Riders, Saturday on CTV. March, a month for snow and skiing. CTV Sports presents downhill, slalom, cross country, freestyle, the Canadian Skiing Championships, Saturday on CTV.
We're talking today with Caroline Cossey and her fiancé David Finch. Caroline, who's known as Tula throughout the world, a very well-known model, and Caroline and David are getting married. And we also have Caroline's sister Pam on the phone from England. Now, just getting to know a little bit more about you. Your family, you have quite an extraordinary family, but when they first saw these changes happening in you, I think your father was a little concerned about you. He saw this young man who didn't quite know who he was. And
That's right. He was worried and concerned, like my mum and the whole family. But once I had found myself, and then I discussed it with my brother because I couldn't face my family, he went home and
But your father said to you, I think, and you say in your book, My Story, you say, your father said, cut your hair, put on a suit, and you'll feel better, and pull yourself together, you'll be fine.
Well, that's a normal reaction with any sort of heterosexual man when they haven't... Then he went into understanding what transsexuals are all about. So, yes, and once he understood that I had a chromosomal hormonal problem, he was totally supportive. He was willing to pay for surgery.
He was?
Yeah.
And your brother, how did he react to you?
The same. I mean, totally shocked initially, like David was, but then went into finding out what transsexuals are all about. There's so much ignorance on the subject, and that's why, I mean, as painful it is to talk about something so personal to me, someone has to, and then, I mean, there's 42,000 in England. I don't know how many there is here in Canada, but if we all got up and said, you know, I'm transsexual and so what, there would be a change in law.
There's still a stigma. There's a kind of... there's an uncomfortableness about the whole thing. There's what are you? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you? But it's true. I mean, let's be totally honest about it.
Yes, we're stuck in the same sort of category as transvestites and drag queens, and you know, it's getting across that hormonally and chromosomally I'm not. Most transvestites are heterosexual men who like to dress up for the sexual kick or whatever, and that most of them are happily married, but. Transsexuals are completely different. We have a hormonal problem, and as I said, a chromosomal problem.
Now, Pam, you said that you always felt that Caroline was really like a sister to you.
So yes, because we were always terribly close, and we shared so much together, and I never looked upon her in any way like a brother, because, I mean, my older brother, he was a brother to me, but my sister was just always like a sister to me.
All right, let me ask you about the surgery, because you're very beautiful, and I've seen the nude layout of you in Playboy magazine, and and I don't know if it's even appropriate for me to say this to Caroline, but you look just like a woman, and I kept looking at these pictures really closely, saying, aha, are they airbrushed? And you do. I mean, you have, I don't know, here are some of the pictures of you in the Playboy layout, and we can't show you from the waist. This daytime television, but you can, there you are from the waist up, but trust me, you look like any other woman. But there are many women who...
But what do you perceive to be as a woman?
Well, I mean, you have a vagina, you have all the parts that I have as a woman, and
Finally, yes, but just because I had male genitalia to start with didn't make me a man, so now I've got it sort of sorted out. It doesn't make me a woman either. That part of my body was just for me to be able to function in a female fashion, but all the rest had to be taken into consideration, and I had to go through the avenues of the psychiatrist, endocrinologist to sort out all that. So fortunately, I've got better looks than an awful lot of other transsexuals, but never judge a book by its cover. We transsexuals go through the avenues of trying to fight it, joining the army, the police force, just because we've got this problem with society.
Well,
And
you know what, I was
sad.
taking a look at all the, I mean, you had a very, very successful modeling career, and you modeled in Paris, Rome, Australia, Britain. I don't know if you remember the campaign Tula was in, the Smirnoff campaign, but I remember it very well because it was quite spectacular. Okay. And it was called, they said anything could happen campaign, but they really didn't know how.
They didn't know, no.
Yeah, there you are in that campaign. You did a lot of topless body shots. And
well, I used to model the Playtex nursing bras and things like that, which was wonderful. But
you were on the cover of European Vogue. Yeah. You were in the James Bond film. And then when the British press blew the whistle on you and said she was really a he...
Well, that's the tabloids, yes.
Yeah.
With success comes the tabloids. I'm sure you're familiar with the tabloids always sniffing around for something that's, you know, a little unkosher, and they found something. So they printed that, and it was very painful. But I had a choice at that stage. You know, I could have killed myself because I was devastated, which I was. But fortunately, with my family and friends, I got up and fought. You know, I've been fighting ever since because I refused to be put down, and I refused to be made to feel that I'm second class just because I had a.
But they weren't breaking your door down after that to do the modeling jobs, because I think if we're going to be totally
candid... Well, they were, but it sort of took off in a freak aspect, and I didn't want that. You know, I didn't want suddenly all these photographers dying to take pictures of me because I was suddenly Tula, a transsexual. I wanted to remain Tula, a model, anonymous, just, you know, because as a model you're taken for face value. I didn't think it was anyone's business what I had to deal with as a child.
But the legitimate modeling offers and the legitimate film offers weren't there the way they were before they found out that Tula was a transsexual.
That's right.
And that really brought your career in a sense. And if there was a film career or anything beyond the modeling career which was successful, it all came to a crashing halt after that.
Right.
And is that really fair, though? I mean, if you'd been good enough, if you'd been good enough to be a model before and beautiful enough, why did you suddenly...
Well, that's the stuffy sort of British attitudes, I suppose, and that's what I'm sort of fighting. You know, the fact that I'm helped medically and then to sort of be stuck in legal limbo. I mean, if I commit a crime, I get sent to a man's prison. Do you think that's right? I mean, I'd probably have a good time in there, but... I don't think I'd want the buzz cut again, actually.
I want to go for a moment, because we're still fascinated with all of this, and maybe 50 years from now...
I would have killed myself. Or 50 years from now.
From now,
50
50 years from now, transsexuals will be more accepted because of people like you.
50 years. I think actually this next 10 years. The last 10 years we've seen a big breakthrough with acceptance of homosexuals, and, you know, they've got rights. And I think now, you know, now I'm being more open, and there's a few more standing up to say, well, I'm transsexual, and so what? People will accept it and understand it and read about it, like my little darling David here.
Yes, but you weren't, David, it wasn't easy for you, because when you first read about all the operations and the hormonal, I mean, any of us any women who've been through menopause and have had to take hormones, or any of us who've had babies who've had morning sickness and know when our hormones are going wild, how ill we feel those first few months, no, that's what you went through every time you took hormone pills. And when you were reading about Caroline and the surgery she went through and the hormone treatment she took, I think from what I remember in the book, this actually, or the research, this actually made you feel, you know, you were very shocked and felt very kind of sick about the whole thing.
I was sick about it because of my ignorance on it. I didn't know anything about transsexuals, really. I knew about the operations, but see, in my mind, Caroline was a man. So when I read the book, and having spoken with Caroline, I was much more sympathetic, and so that's why, you know, it didn't come that difficult.
Because you've gone to extraordinary lengths to be physically, to reconcile your mind, I'm a woman, with your body, I'm a woman, right? You have silicone implants in your breasts, which I don't know if you're worried about, because there's so much
I'm worried, like every other woman that's had
silicone.
Yes.
And your Adam's apple removed, and your penis removed, and that's all terribly painful surgery.
Well, sure, but have you been through childbirth?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got an end result, so no, I mean, for me, you know, that part of my body, I mean, it was painful for me having to sort of work and live as a woman and not complete. I couldn't function. It was a very frustrating time for me because, you know, everybody needs a social life, and I did at that time, and I was being dated and going out, and I just couldn't take it that one step further. So I needed to function like a woman. I mean, I felt like a woman, I was doing a woman's job, and I was only halfway there, so I needed to be able to function, to feel complete.
Okay, we'll talk more with you when we return in just a moment.
How do our toughest critics rate Sears Canadian-made fantasy towels for quality, rich colors, and price? They seem to approve. On sale now at Sears.
Attention itchy, watery, puffy eyes. Attention runny noses. Attention sneezing noses. It'll soon be Seldane time again. For millions of allergy sufferers, Seldane takes away your itchy, watery eyes, takes away your runny nose, takes away the sneezing, and it does it all fast, without drowsiness. So attention allergy sufferers, it'll soon be Seldane time again.
Tasty, yummy, crunchy. Wouldn't you rather have ruffles?
I like the atmosphere of the Bank of Montreal. It suits my temperament. Well, I usually look around to see if she's around when I go into the bank. And of course, if she's there, I go over if she's not busy. But you know, as well as being knowledgeable, she's helpful. And I think your bank manager is tops.
How do our toughest critics rate Sears Canadian-made fantasy towels for quality, rich colors, and price? They seem to approve. On sale now at Sears.
Does Canada stand to gain from a North American free trade pact? Our political panel examines the next chapter in Canadian trade negotiations. That's tomorrow on CTV's Canada AM.
We're talking today with Caroline Cossey. This is her book, My Story. It's the story of her life, really. She started out as a boy, and she is now a woman, and the struggle she went through, the emotional and physical struggle she went through, and we also have her fiancé David on the show with us as well, talking about their relationship. You speak about a relationship in the book. You refer to this man as H, a very important member of the Arab royal family. And this was, again, I think, in terms of your development as a human being and a woman and what lay ahead for you, an important part of your life.
Yes, that experience was very important because I had everything a woman would want on the emotional side, and I also had on the material side. But within myself, I weren't complete. I was living in Kuwait, and I had everything. I mean, I had all the jewels, I had the love of a man, and he wanted me to be his, I think, third wife.
Now, this was a very powerful, influential.
Yes.
Just sort of set the scene for us, because I want the audience to realize, although you can't name who he is.
Well, I could, but I think that's
you prefer
totally
not to.
Irrelevant. Yes.
Yeah. Just give us a sense of how important he was.
Well, he was very important. He was very wealthy. He was part of the running of Kuwait, but he fell in love with me in Paris, and I fell in love at that time. And it was important for me to find myself because, as I said, I had everything. I had a love of a man, so I had that emotional security. I had all the material things that any woman would want, but I still looked at myself in the mirror and I wasn't complete. You know, I detested what I saw, and that was an important relationship. I just needed to get away and get myself sorted out, and he didn't want me to do that. I think he must have been a little kinky because I had my breasts and I was, you know, looking like I do now, but I still had my...
We can say the word penis, we're all grown up. Okay. So you were a woman from the waist up and a sort of, you had the anatomy of a man from the waist down. Now, do you think that was part of the attraction?
No, I don't think so, because he was attracted to me on a physical level initially. We dated for a while, and then I sort of had to explain to him. He was slightly shocked, but curious.
And how long were you involved with him?
In Paris about 3-4 months, and then going over to Kuwait another 4 or 5 months.
So, and you walked away from all this, the money,
yes,
the fabulous penthouse, the jewel, everything. You decided that you felt like this bird in a gilded cage.
That's
now,
right.
you did something, I think, quite extraordinary and very risky, you know, Caroline, because you still hadn't had the surgery, and yet you were a striptease. You did striptease in Paris, from what I remember.
That's
and
right.
I thought, and then afterwards there was a communal shower that all of the girls who were chorus girls with you.
I used to keep a G-string on, and they just sort of thought that was rather strange. And I used to say, "Well, I'm English. I'm very shy."
He used to shower with his G-string on with the rest of the girls. Why did you take such an extraordinary risk? Because
I couldn't stand there sort of fully naked.
Why did you do striptease at all? Why?
Well, that was actually, you're talking about the showgirl aspect in Paris. I was booked as a showgirl, and I worked as a showgirl. Then I went to Kuwait, and then when all that sort of fell apart, I spoke to Adrian, a friend who's a male dancer, and said, I need to make money quick because I want to be complete. I mean, H didn't give me any money. I mean, I left everything, and I just was happy to get out of it. But I needed to make money quick, so I thought of doing Adrian said, why not try striptease in Rome? Because
didn't you say to
don't
yourself,
have to completely
this is
strip
crazy
off.
if I get found out? I mean, this is really risky.
Found out about what?
Well, that I'm, that I'm not a woman. Truthfully, you were in a situation, you put yourself at risk. If you'd been found out, you probably would have. In other words, the British press blew the whistle on you, but it might have just happened sooner. Because you put yourself at risk by going up on that stage, by showering with these women night after night, and if somebody would have cottoned on...
Well, what else would you have suggested?
I don't know, I don't have a suggestion. I was just thinking to myself how you were living this lie.
I wasn't living a lie, I was true to myself. I mean, I was doing a job that I enjoyed doing, and I had a little growth that I needed to tuck away. I mean, I wasn't living a lie.
To these other women, they didn't
if you have a wart on your face, you camouflage it, no? If you... Wherever it is, I mean, I just feel I had something that need removing, like a growth wart or whatever. So
could you not tell these girls the truth? If you did, were you afraid?
Well, that wasn't truth. I mean, why should I sort of say? I'm sure some of the girls might have had boob jobs or hair lips, and they had it surgically rectified. Why should I say? Oh, by the way, I've got a little something that I need sort of reducing.
Honestly, Caroline, I think we're oversimplifying it. I don't think it's analogous. I'm saying that if these people in Paris, for example, and they're very open-minded and liberal, why you couldn't tell these young women so that you didn't have to hide this fact and worry, because one night your G-string, it broke.
That broke in Paris, yes, but nothing sort of happened. I just sort of put it together again.
But it would have been one less thing for you to worry about.
Well, I wasn't worried about it, but I still, even if they had known, I just wouldn't have walked into the shower rooms taking off my G-string and sort of lathering everything up, because I just didn't think it was important me to sort of expose that. You know, that was something that was, deeply... I mean, I was complexed about it, and I didn't want to sort of show it off, so it wouldn't have mattered, to the other girls. The director of the show knew, and... he could live with that, so that was the most important.
It's interesting to find how you got the money eventually to complete your operation.
Well, yes, working very hard as a stripper.
Didn't you get the money from an Arab, from someone else? Didn't someone say...
No, you're talking about my breasts.
Oh, that was your breasts. It's
You're
hard to keep
getting
track of all the
confused,
parts.
Shirley.
Okay, who helped you get the money for your breasts? So you got
You want me
breast
to name
surgery.
drop, don't you? No, I'm not prepared
No,
to
no,
do
no,
that.
I don't want you to name drop it. Just was it someone that you were involved with?
So yes, in a way. Somebody that was curious to sort of see this phenomena.
And eventually helped you out financially to have the operation. Okay, we'll be back with more in just a moment.
does a mini Oreo have to be? Right, so let's show 'em. Okay, mini Oreos, take 5. Of course, you can take as many as you like.
New mini Oreo from Mr. Christie.
For years, Arctic Power has been known as the detergent that works hard in cold water. Now there's new concentrated Ultra Arctic Power. It's smaller. One small scoopful works really hard in the cold, cleaning right down to the fibers. New Ultra Arctic Power works hard in the cold.
Is it a deadly combination?
Tonight on CTV News with Lloyd Robertson.
Why people and chemicals don't mix.
Join us tonight on CTV News.
There is no vaccine.
There's 7.5 million rats in New York City.
Once symptoms appear,
Wiped out entire civilization.
there is no cure.
Now, there's no need to panic.
Kate Jackson in Quiet Killer, Sunday on CTV.
Hi, Carolyn, David.
Hi.
Glad you could be here. My question, actually, Carolyn, I've read your book, and I cried a number of times going through it. And I was wondering, there's photographs of Pam, your father, and your mother, and such. I was wondering why there were no photographs of Terry in the book at all.
There is, when we were children, there's group shots, family shots with Terry. Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I actually wrote a book before, and there was more shots of Terry, but because they'd been used, I don't think, my present publisher wanted to use them again.
Okay. But the family is fairly close still.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
It's wonderful to see. The other thing I wanted to ask you also, it doesn't mention in your book about having to go through the trouble electrolysis, and I wondered if that was maybe due to the fact that you have, was it 3 X's and 1 Y?
I had a little
Is it
bit
the chromosomes you're referring to? I think you alluded to this earlier. Can you
Yes.
just explain that to us?
Well, a woman is XX and a man is XY, so it's the man that determines the sex of a child. I think you've got 22, I'm not an endocrinologist, but I think there's 22 in groups, couples, pairs, and I had a number of mine, 3 X's and a Y. So I'm I think they call it mosaic.
So you didn't have a lot, I guess her question was, did you have a lot of hair on your...
I was never very hairy. I mean, I had a little bit of bum fluff that I needed to get... I mean, not on my bum, but I mean... Yes.
Hi, Carolyn. I was just wondering how old you were when you decided to go ahead with the operations, and how old you were when everything was complete.
I was 20 when I went in to have gender reassignment, but I knew there was something different. I mean, Pam can confirm this. I mean, 4 or 5, we were always dressing up and playing all the girly games, and I just was going towards all what my sister was doing as opposed to what my brother did. I mean, he was, the normal heterosexual man, but I was just not fitting in with that. But at 13, 14, sexual awareness, I really knew that there was something different.
Hi, I'd like to know, in your daily life, can you get on with your life now, or is it always going to be an issue? Can you go to the store without discussing it or defending it?
It's difficult. I mean, people always come up and they'll either say, well, I think it's great what you're doing, or they'll say, well, I don't understand, and then they'll have to stand 5 minutes and explain it. But I've set myself this goal, and I'm trying to get enlightenment, basically. I just feel if I can get a law change, especially in Britain, and I've now been, I just arrived in this morning with a 3 weeks tour of the States, I get encouragement from people that say, well, I didn't know anything about the subject, now I understand, and it's great, because, everybody knows someone who's transsexual, and I'm sure everybody takes a mickey, or, so if I can make life a little bit easier for them, I'll carry on going.
Do you hope if you have the baby and all works out well, just to be a stay-at-home mom and proceed from there?
Well, I'm 37, Shirley, so, I don't have the drive like I had when I was 27. So, yes, I want to carry on working and what have you. I've signed with Click Management in New York, and I'm still fortunately doing the runway modeling and what have you. So I'll carry on working, but for about 2 years I give myself. I think life begins at 40, and I think, you know, I'd like to have a child at 40 with David and settle down for quite a life.
Carolyn, you've mentioned a few times that your very laudable belief that people should not be judged by their appearances. Yet, as a fashion model, you're one of the most visible representatives of an industry that promotes exactly that idea. Have you ever felt any contradiction between that?
Are you talking about being a model or being transsexual? I was talking...
And, well, both. Your experience as a transsexual that you mentioned earlier suggests that you resent the fact that people have treated you based on your appearances earlier in life and that you're almost bound by them. Yet, as a fashion model, you're working for an industry which really bases everything on appearance.
Sure. No, when I was referring to... I was talking to Shirley that, you know, it's very shallow to take someone on the visual aspect. I was referring to other transsexuals, and the majority of transsexuals that are happy to stand up and talk about the predicament don't necessarily look too clever. And I think that's very shallow to just sort of say, oh, can't be doing with that, and I don't accept that because they don't look too feminine, you know, because we go up this avenue of trying to hide it. I mean, fortunately, I found myself very early. An awful lot don't, and they join the forces and try to hide it by being, you know, ultra-masculine. And then when they finally decide, I can't go with this, I have to be true to myself, and I need to sort of get myself completed, they don't look too clever, and it's very sad that we just don't accept them. And people do me.
Shirley, you touched on the fact in the Playboy centerfold as to whether airbrushing was used, and I was wondering whether a man could be intimate with you and not know that you had previously been a man.
I think you better ask David that one.
We'll get David to answer that question. I've got to take a break. David, back to you.
How can you be so calm, huh?
Well, he's not my boss. Here, make yourself useful.
Minute rice? Honey, this guy knows rice. Where's that long grain stuff you always use?
New Minute Rice is premium long grain. It's better.
That's great.
So you just relax while I brush up on my small talk.
Superb. My compliments.
Ditto.
New Minute Rice, the better taste of 100% premium long grain.
If you use a scouring powder on this, you get this. Vim won't scratch the way some powders can because it's a liquid. Powerful Vim cleans the toughest dirt and leaves a sparkling shine. Powerful on dirt, yet gentle on surfaces.
One tablet has the strength to relieve today's tough pain. It's Advil for headache pain, muscle and arthritis pain. One is often enough, and there's little chance of stomach upset. Ask your pharmacist about Advil for today's tough pain.
When babies teethe, their little mouths go through big pains. But Baby Anbesol stops teething pain on contact. Baby Anbesol. It's first aid for baby's first teeth.
Maybe we should be running the country on natural gas. Why don't our kids seem to know anything anymore? Too many doctors, the real problem with health care. Those are some of the ideas we're looking at W5.
W5 with Eric Malling, Sunday on CTV.
When in Toronto, come and be part of my studio audience. To reserve your free tickets, call 416-928-6300. That's 416-928-6300. Just before the break, the young man was asking you, actually, Caroline, whether you and David can have normal sexual relations, and I think he was very discreetly trying to ask, can you have intercourse? Can you have an orgasm?
Shall I answer the orgasm first?
You can answer that.
I'm sure I'll sort of answer this like most girls. It really depends on the man. But,
David?
No, I wouldn't have known.
When you make love with Caroline, is it like making love with any other woman? I know these are all very sort of strange questions coming from us, but you have to understand that you've probably been asking those same strange questions before you fell in love with this woman and got to know her intimately, that these are the kind of questions that go through our minds as well.
Sure. Yeah.
So when the two of you make love, is it the way it is with other women?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's no
supposed to
difference.
say it's better.
See,
I forgot that part, David. So say, no, it's just 100,000 times better.
Well, you see, it's just that people say, you know, knowing that she used to be a man, but that's where the ignorance really stops us from making any progress here. You know, the fact that the name transsexual, you know, infers that she used to be a man, and that's not the case. And once you can break that mental barrier, you know, then there's nothing to get over after that. Everything's normal.
Well done. I was just wondering if there's anything medically that you must continue to do, medication or anything, and it appears physically and mentally everything you've done so far has been well worth it. You're absolutely stunning.
Pam, we don't want to have you say goodbye without allowing you to say something to your future brother-in-law and your sister about their upcoming plans.
Oh, well, I just give them lots of love and support. And I just want to say that for whatever reason, God made Caroline that way, and she's just trying to make the most of it. And she's not a criminal, and we love her dearly. A big kiss to you all.
Thank you,
all
Pam.
David's family. And thank you very much.
And I thank you both. I thank all three of you for joining us today. You and David and Pam, it was a pleasure having you.
For a transcript of today's program, send a check for $8.50 to Media Reach, Box 900, Station Q.